The message I picked out is one that I will never forget. It said, it's a choice between fear and love. And I've always approached my problems or my situations from a space of fear. And it really is a choice. We can choose. Communication is key. Everything that I learn, how I grow is because I interact. We are caught between two paradigms, fear or comfort. So there are consequences which outweigh their comforts. How comfortable do you want to be? I think we have to look at ourselves. We really do have to look at ourselves. I want to build a community of visual activists. I want to build a community of individuals who come in, share their voices, and share their life.
How can someone find what calls them?
Wow. The deep questions.
Hey, Wayne. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited for this conversation. You're a visual activist from South London?
That is correct.
And
yes.
So far, so good. And you're the founder of Celebration of Demonstration. And I know it as a gallery, but there's also a book and some project going on. We'll delve into that.
Of course, yeah. It's an exciting time to be a curator of a gallery space in the heart of activism, which is Brixton. Brixton City is a space where I grew up in and had many first experiences, had my first kiss in Brixton, had my first fight in Brixton. The first time I was punched in the belly by a police officer was in Brixton. So it holds a dear space in my heart. And to have my business there is something that I feel honored to have.
Yeah, and your business is what got me to meet you, actually. I was in Brixton visiting a friend and walking around, and then I see this red front. I'm like, what is this? And then I see one of your shots, and I'm like, what is this? And then I got in. And then who is this? And it was a wonderful conversation and time we had together. And I guess we're probably going to pull some of those threads.
Yeah, I think you should.
How did you get started?
So 2020, I remember watching George Floyd being murdered on TV. And I've always had a passion for creativity, for photography. But I remember sitting there watching this footage and wondering to myself, what is my role? What am I supposed to be doing when I'm seeing stuff like this? I was upset. I was angry. I was crying. And the universe simply said, your job is to record this. So that's passion, meeting, focus, for me, gave me direction. All of a sudden, when those two came together, I just knew exactly what I needed to do and what my role in this was. It was to record and to tell these stories. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah. And you showed me the shots that you used to do before you became what you call a visual activist, and the shot of your children at the window, which is a really cool shot. So how did you even get into photography to start with?
Well, I remember 20 plus years ago, a friend of mine was selling their camera and I thought, I wanted to delve into this. But if I'm being honest, the shot that you mentioned of my children was actually one of my earliest shots that I can remember. And I got into photography because I was hiding. I just didn't want to talk to people at family functions. So I needed this barrier between me and the world. And it turns out that it was more than a barrier. It was a safe space. It was a space where I could be expressed. And then it became my joy, my passion. So I'm thankful for photography, for finding me, first and foremost.
And I was also thankful for this need to hide that brought photography to you, right?
Yes. I suppose, yes. Because, at that stage of my career, I referred to myself as just a bloke with camera. Wasn't a photographer. And then it wasn't until 2017 when I was in Cuba, I took this shot of a car. I was out. Cuba for me was my spiritual playground. So many things that I love about life happen in Cuba. Percussion, dancing, the music, boxing, and the scenery. And I took this picture, and I remember coming back home and sharing it and showing it to people. And everyone was like, "Dude, this picture is amazing." And I was like, you know what? I'm a photographer now. I'm going to wear that. I'm going to pat myself on the back. And that was some 15 years after taking a picture of my kids. But then the journey didn't end there, because in 2020, after witnessing the murder of George Floyd and taking, there was a picture which I call like Afro activism. A woman stood outside the American embassy with an afro. And it was just such a beautifully iconic picture. And it was at that point when I stopped being a photographer and I became a visual activist, because that's when I realized that my work needed to say more than I'm pretty. And that gave me the purpose, direction.
And when we chatted, you were saying, I had all this anger and I couldn't find a place to put it. And so using that camera and taking the shots of all these angry people in the end is what helped you channel that anger.
Yeah. In my space in Brixton, my gallery, the things that I do have been my catharsis. I drum. So I sit there and I drum. I also draw murals, painted murals on the walls. And for me, it's all about just expelling all of that rage. So when I first became a visual activist, I was an angry visual activist. I was running around taking pictures, smile please, taking pictures filled with rage. And it was how I was able to illustrate, use my skills as an illustrator. This is one of my illustrations here. Use my skills as an illustrator to allow me to just get rid of all of that angst and create a clearer vision of what I wanted to create with that space. And I wanted to create what I call the safe space for protest. What would come later is the realization that there is no one safe space for protest, because you have to choose. You have to choose a side. You have to choose.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of protest, right? It's to go against what is tying you down. And so there is going to be friction anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. And this journey has been emotional. It's been creative. It's been informative. The space I'm in has taught me how to cry beautifully. And it's something I feel that I've needed. I've met some incredible people. I realize I am not the only visual activist out there. There are hundreds of other people who go out day and night shooting, capturing and telling stories. I was fortunate enough to have been invited to Palestine last year, to the West Bank. And that in itself, when you see apartheid up close and personal, it just hits different. And I was able to take some incredible pictures. I had an exhibition on 710 Journeys at P21, which is a Palestinian gallery in King's Cross last year, where I exhibited a lot of these pictures. And it was just emotional, But I think it's important as visual activists that we honestly tell stories that can really help reflect what people are going through. And that's what I'm hoping my work does.
Yeah, it's a lot of truth telling. I guess with the emotional side of things, obviously there's the emotions that you have to process for yourself that come up, as you take those photos because you're in an environment where you see. So, for example, in the West Bank, you would have seen quite horrific situations, desperate situations. When you're in the middle of protests, it's the underlying reason why people are protesting. Are usually injustice, social disparities, all these things that make us want to explode. So that's a lot of emotion that's thrown at you and that you also need to process because obviously you connect to them in some ways. Being I guess, British African. Is that how you could call yourself? I don't even know. Are you African? Are you Caribbean? Like, I don't even know your background.
Wow. Well, my mother is from Uganda, came here when she was 16. My father is from Jamaica, but I am a staunch South Londoner. I wear South London on my sleeve the same way how I wear Arsenal on my sleeve. The things which are going to be with me till I die. Growing up in Brixton was incredible because we lived through the Brixton riots. And, like I said, it was an environment where there was lots of protest, there was lots of activism. So I saw that on my doorstep. And maybe that's what has made me want to capture this. And plus, I think it's the human thing to do, albeit on a very basic level.
Yeah.
Who wants to see grief? Who wants to see others suffer? It's
No, we
the
all
human
want to do
thing to do.
something about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think you got to do what you can with what you have. If your thing is, I'm going to go out and protest, if your thing is, I'm going to divest, I'm not going to buy certain goods, or I'm going to use my skills to be a voice, each one teach one. Just do what you can. And I suppose, and as a visual activist, I realized that I can use my creativity to be my voice. So I'm blessed in as much as at least I have that.
Yeah, and that's not only a great gift, but also something that you have to nurture, I imagine, and something that you have to protect. And I suppose, you were mentioning earlier the other activists that you got to meet through the work, knowing that you're not alone in doing that as well. Because I imagine, just like my work, when I do a lot of that, inner work and helping people through their inner work, it can be very lonely space if you don't connect with other people that do it. What part of, meeting people has been impactful for you?
Communication is key. Everything that I do, everything that I learn, how I grow is because I interact. Like I said, the space has taught me how to cry. And one of the things which I absolutely love about Celebration of Demonstration and the gallery space, and you witnessed this, but the walls are made up of thousands of messages that people have written. The energy in that space
Mm.
is unbelievable.
It's so
And
healing.
it really is. And the amount of times people come in and just burst into tears or cry, everyone gets a cuddle. Everyone gets a hug when they come into the space. And I've started this thing, I call it the gratitude box. And I'm not sure if I was doing it when you came in. What the gratitude box is it's a box with the word gratitude written across it, of course. And there's about 100 messages that people have written that go into the box. And these messages, before they go into the walls, they go into the gratitude box. So someone writes a message, I ask them to take their message, place it into the gratitude box. And then I explain that this box is made up of messages that other people have written. And one message in here is for you. So somebody has written a message for you. So then that person then roots around, pulls out a message, reads it, and then puts it back. And that's their message for the day. 2 or 3 weeks ago, someone came into the gallery and they said, how often do I do the gratitude box? I said, well, not often enough. And I said, you should do it. So I wrote a message which, if I remember correctly, it said, people can only meet you as deeply as they have met themselves.
Mhm.
And that was my offering to the gratitude box. And then I did a bit of a recording because I've asked people when they've written a message if they can explain why they've written it and what does it mean to them. So I explained what that message meant to me. And then I rooted around in a gratitude box and I picked out a message. And the message I picked out is one that I will never forget. It said, it's a choice between fear and love. And I've always approached my problems or my situations from a space of fear.
Mhm.
And it was always the easier go-to emotion. And then I realized some of these fears are actually opportunities. Some of these issues are not what I'm making them out to be. And it really is a choice. We can choose. And I think every time somebody writes a message, every time I give somebody a cuddle, I learn from that. I grow from that. So the space is very healing, as you said. The space is very energetic. The space is very creative. And I want to build a community of visual activists. I want to build a community of individuals who come in, share their voices, and share their light. It is only through communication can we grow.
100%. There's this idea that I continue to try and push, that we function exactly like nature functions, and that if we want to be thriving, we need to consider reciprocity and cooperation and communication as the baseline for our growth and for resilience. When we try to topple systems that are really well organized, we need to organize ourselves just as well. And I guess having
Yeah,
those spaces where people can communicate is so important.
yeah, yeah. But it feels like it's getting harder and harder to do that. I'd argue that we are caught between two paradigms, fear or comfort. A lot of people
Mm.
are scared to organize or to have a voice because, if I get caught, I'm going to lose my job or I might go to prison. I've got a mortgage, so there are consequences which outweigh their comforts. We're so scared of losing our comforts.
Mm.
Some people say, I've worked a 10-hour day, a 12-hour day, a 15-hour day. I just want to sit down, watch some crap TV, have a beer. I don't want to be watching pictures of dead children or, the world
Yeah.
suffering.
At the same time, I feel like these categories of people that can't hold this maybe are not meant to. And maybe it's okay for them to support it differently, whether it's, buying pictures or donating to causes or whatever. We don't have this Same at stake. All of us have a different way to relate to what we do and the risk that we're willing to take. For someone that has nothing to lose, it's a lot almost easier to go and burn everything. So there's also a bit of grace, I think, to be had with this. Well, yeah, it's hard for a lot of people because we are caught in the system where, yeah, I've got my mortgage, yeah, I've got my children, yeah, I've got this and that. But
Yeah.
then there's also the, hey, a black man just got murdered by people that were supposed to be protecting him in a system that says they're protecting people like him, but actually are not. How much longer are we willing to look away? You know?
How comfortable do you want to be? I think
Yeah.
we
Choose
we
your discomfort.
we have to look at ourselves. We really do have to look at ourselves. And what we are willing, it's a choice between love and fear. And I'll come back to that quote. It really is, for me anyway. I look at that and I am constantly asking myself, where is my humanity? Look, 2020 was the first year that I went on my first protest. Before that,
Mhm.
I just didn't feel that it was for me. It's something that's other people do that. That's not really for me. But when I think back and I look at, I had all of the tools in as much as I was creative. I knew how to take great pictures, and I understood the landscape of creativity, but I didn't have the focus. George
Mm,
Floyd's murder provided the focus, and with the creativity, the passion, and the focus, when they came together, that created direction. Then all of a
mhm.
sudden, it's like I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I wanted to do, and I'm lucky in as much as I had that. And for years, I didn't have that focus. For years, it wasn't on my radar. And then it was, and
Yeah.
it became the single most important thing to me. And I suppose I've always had this sense of wanting to help. Each one teach one. I've
Mhm.
always wanted to give back. I need to see the footage. I need to see what is happening around the world, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it informs my work. It allows
Yeah.
me to get emotionally attached to what I do. And that emotion is what feeds me. I think we all remember seeing pictures of the guy stood in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square and how it made us feel, the young girl running after being hit by napalm in the Vietnam
Mm,
War. This, for me, is visual activism. Photography, you see; visual activism, you feel. I saw a picture not too long ago. It was a Congolese image of a rubber worker who was sat in front of his house. He was sat somewhere, not sure where, with two small hands in front of him. He was just sat staring at these two small hands. The story is that he did not reach his rubber quota, so they cut off his daughter's hands.
yeah.
And I
That's
asked
horrible.
myself, yeah, how hard was this guy working? Did he get out one day and say, I'm going to have a go slow day? You know what I mean? I'm going to take it easy. He probably worked harder than everybody. And when I think about that, when I really contextualize that and
Mhm.
put context to it, that enrages me and it
Yeah.
feeds
As
me.
it should.
Yeah. So, yeah, this work is heavy, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm.
And I will
How
do
do you
it.
protect your emotions though? Because obviously that heaviness, unless you metabolize it in some way and process it in some way, sticks around. Like it just stays with you. How do
It
you
does, yeah.
deal with that?
I cry a lot. Like I
Mhm.
said, the space has taught me that, and I'm so grateful for that. I talk a lot. I create. I drum.
Mhm.
God, I love drumming. And I draw. So I have channels, and maybe there is more stuff, more work that I should be doing, because there are days when I come in and I sit in the energy of my gallery. I
Mhm.
just want to, or I just want to cry, or I just breathe a lot. So I try to manage it as best I can.
Mm.
Whiskey helps. Did not just
Yeah.
say that,
No, no one
but
heard anything.
yeah,
But yeah, I guess, also giving yourself the opportunity to just be in your space and feel is a big thing too. Like, no, cry or be sad or be disheartened or be whatever it is. Because that's also the flip side of the anger and the outrage, that's horrible what humanity is going through.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm grateful that I'm on this side of it. I don't know. It sometimes feels like, like when you've let the genie out the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going on holiday last year, and I wanted to have a holiday where I just didn't have to worry about anything. And I said, my biggest concern is that, do I have pina colada or mojito? I think that's the level of decision making that I
Rough
wanted on this.
choice.
Yeah, hard choices, And I lasted, I think, 3 days of sitting by the pool, topping up my black before I get drawn back into life. So yeah, sometimes it can be hard to switch off, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a practice though. When
yes,
I
maybe
started
I
my
just need to
business, it
practice.
was, yeah, 100%. You just need to keep going back and choosing between mojitos and pina coladas. But it was the same when I started my business, with this idea. Well, those methods that I put together have helped me massively. And I know there's people that need help. And I was like constantly going and like, no, no, no. But nothing is ever at just one level. You need to fluctuate through levels of ease and hardship, of calm and excitement. And so that's part of the maintenance, at least for me. Part of the maintenance is allowing and accepting that I do need rest. I do need to switch off. And I have to be very mindful of doing it, because when there's a very important mission that's calling you, you don't want to switch off. Quick pause. I want to share with you 2 things that are so supportive of me every single day. First, with their medicinal mushrooms and herbal blends, Superfeast has been a game changer for me. It's helped me with energy, with immunity, with focus, and with stress support. All the things that I need for what I do. Second, Australian ceremonial cacao, my favorite cacao brand, to support you with your mood, emotional regulation, and clarity. And if you're a woman, it's great for your well-being. If you want to try them, use the code WMW Health, all in capital letters. I'll put the links in the show notes. Now let's go back to the episode. And that's, again, fear versus love, right?
Yeah.
I've got a sticky note. So I've got sticky notes all around my house. And one of them is notice fear, choose love. And so it's the same thing. It's kind of a fear-based reaction to want to quick, go to take that picture, make that book, or find someone else to support through the journey. It's like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And it's kind of still fear-based, as opposed to the loving version, which is, hey, the best way I'm going to connect with all of this is if I also support myself through the process and allow myself to have downtimes, even though they're hard to get to initially. And it's also a makeup, right?
How do you mean?
As in your childhood. I don't know about you, but I was raised to achieve and to, prove my worth. And so action is really related to me showing that I have a space and I belong and I need to show up. And so it's kind of, for me, that runs parallel to, hey, there's a mission that's pulling you, but also if you stop, you're worthless. Dismantling all of that and allowing yourself to go, yeah, I've got important work to do. Yeah, it's calling me constantly. And yeah, I don't want to stop. However, I do also have to take care of myself.
This is something which I'm learning to do. And again, it's that whole idea about having the tools and having the focus and bringing them together to get the direction. And I've always felt that I've had the tools. I've done the courses, I've done the reading, but it's always felt like, yeah, you might have done all of these bits, but unless you're really focused with that, you're missing something out. And the space is helping me to find my emotional focus.
Yeah.
Do I overwork? I absolutely do. And that's something that I need to work on. I get that. I can see it and I'm trying.
Maybe you will, maybe you won't.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? There's a lot of stuff that I'm having to put in place because of where I'm at. And I'm finding that I am needing more emotional support. So, back in therapy, which is great. Absolutely love it. I think it's important that we talk and we talk through our issues. So I'm doing that. There are bits and I'm conscious and I suppose the model that I'm using is how I felt when I embarked on this journey, being a creative and then finding the focus to then get the direction. I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking for that from a more emotional level of my life. I've done the reading, I've done all of the research, but is this space going to be my focus to then give me direction, to then understand and appreciate that? You know, I can't do it all myself. And this is
Yeah.
about working collaboratively, having a support structure. You know, I've started something, but I think in order to keep it, you have to share it. In order for it to grow, you have to accept that it doesn't begin and end with just me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the next part of this journey. I'm about to bring out my 4th book. Yeah. And that's 4
Woohoo!
books in 4 years. So there
Nice.
is a lot of stuff which is happening. And this is some of my best work, I think. And in keeping with what we were just saying about in order to keep it, you have to share it. This is also my first collaboration.
Yeah.
I'm doing this book with another visual activist whose name is also Wayne. God, how freaky is that? And his surname is
Perfect.
also C. So there's WCWC. And we're bringing out a book called Carnival of Resistance. And it focuses on the Notting Hill Carnival, which was born out of resistance in the
Mm-hmm.
1950s. There were race riots that were happening in West London. So we put together this wonderful collection of images. I've been taking pictures at Carnival for the last 15, 20 years, as has Wayne too, or Little Wayne as we call him. And we've come together and we put this beautiful book. So slowly but surely, I'd argue that I am learning to work more collaboratively. I am learning to be more, to kind of see the change that I want to be, see the change that I want to be, see?
Be
Anyway,
the change
I don't
that you
know.
want to see. One of those.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
Whichever
And
order.
whichever one works for you. There is progress, you know. When I look towards the future, you know, I want people, I want a celebration of demonstration to represent other visual activists. I want someone to say, I was in France at a celebration of demonstration exhibition with this incredible French photographer. Or I was in Australia at a celebration of demonstration exhibition with this amazing Australian visual activist.
Yeah.
That's the vision that I have for the brand.
It feels
Protests
like
aren't
you're
going
getting
ahead.
that way as well. Like, when I was there and I met you, you were already starting to think, okay, I want this space to have more than just me.
Yeah.
And you were also already talking about the book and some of the images that, you were sharing the space with Little
Yeah.
Wayne. And so you're definitely heading that way.
100%, you know. I don't know, maybe it's franchisable. Who knows?
Who knows?
I don't know.
But at least it's shareable, and that's already a
It's
start.
definitely it's definitely shareable. We all have voices and we all should share our voices and use our voices.
Yeah.
That's the only way we can move forward. If we can't even communicate, I don't say you don't have to agree with each other. You just have to be able to have a conversation,
Mm.
express your opinion or your space and
Yeah. I
take it
think
from
it's
there.
so important. So important because it allows to create bridges. If we just stay insulated in our own, mind or group of people that think the same way, feel the same way, see the same thing, you're just not really enriching yourself and you're not
Yeah.
allowing to create that sense of oneness, really, because you can be very different with someone and be very connected at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. So onwards and upwards.
Yeah. And you've got the book. You're
Yeah.
heading towards the direction of opening up the space to more artists. How are you
Yeah.
going about that? Are you reaching out to people? What's your process?
My process at the moment is to just keep sharing. It's a job lot just running the gallery at the moment. And, you know, I'm a Ferrari with wooden wheels and I'm trying to reaching out to other people, but it's about just trying to create more awareness. I do feel a bit invisible at the moment, but that changes with every experience with everyone that walks through the gallery. And I'm grateful for that. So that's what I want to do. I just want to reach as many people as I can. So doing stuff like this really helps.
Yeah. And, always timely as well. These sort of things just happen at the right time every single time for some reason. I've learned to accept that things don't work out when they're not meant to, and things work out when they're meant to. And so the opportunities show up exactly when they're supposed to, even if they're disguised under something that looks like not an opportunity. And so being
Mhm.
open to what comes to you and alert and intuitive enough to go, yeah, or no. It's so
Yeah.
important. So with your years going through all those protests and everything, was there ever a time where you were scared doing your work? Like, was there ever a time where like, oh, this is dangerous?
No, no. I
Nice.
think the sense of this is necessary always
Mm,
trumped this is dangerous. And I remember my very, very, very first protest.
yeah.
I just remember having this big, massive bag filled with cameras and lenses and flashes and stuff. Just didn't know what to take. I just thought, just take everything. And I'd heard stories about how sometimes the police could be really heavy-handed. But I decided that this is where I needed to be and what I need to do. And
Mhm,
I think what happens is as you do more and more protests, you create your own protest face, if you like, or you know
mm,
how to interact with crowds. And I know photographers who get really carried away. I've met photographers who are so emotionally invested in what's happening, somebody says something, they're screaming back and whatever. I've got very simple rules when I take pictures when I'm out. You check your emotions at the door. You check your politics at the door. You've got one job.
mm,
That's to take the best picture you can, you know? And and that's what I try and do. I try and put myself in situations where I can see, where I can feel the energy. And that's what I said about visual activism. It's not about seeing, it's about feeling. Then that's, for me, what distinctively tells it apart. And I've met so many visual activists whose work you really know how to capture. And that's a combination of technique and just having a great eye and feeling through the energy of a situation.
mm.
And I don't know if I do honestly believe that is a thing, you know, to be technically gifted, but to also be able to traverse yourself through the energy of a protest and find that shot. I think that's a natural thing for me is anyway, you know.
Yeah. It must be very intuitive. And because also, if you use your emotions as a guiding thread and emotions around you as a guiding thread, you probably feel when it matches and you're like, that.
Yeah, and it's more instinctive, There is no kind of like barometer of alignment. Take that picture. You just feel it. And I've
Mhm,
taken pictures where I felt, dude, you had no right to get that so well, so perfect, And sometimes it just aligns and it's just about flow.
mm.
It's about feeling and flow. And I'm constantly complaining that my equipment isn't as good as it used to be.
And my
But then I think
bones
that's,
are a bit heavier.
God, yeah, my back hurts. Oh, my days. I definitely need to get lighter cameras, that's for sure. But the love and the care is still there. And it's something that I just really, really get excited about wanting to do.
Mm. And you've got to keep doing it. There's no other way around.
Yeah, this is it. You have to.
Yeah.
And it's served me well. It really has served me well so far. I
Mm.
mean, to be on my fourth book in 4 years
Yeah.
has
That's an
been
incredible feat, to
such,
be honest.
yeah, yeah. And they're not small books.
No, I saw them. They're actually quite full.
Yes. Do I
Yeah.
have one
Yeah.
here?
Look at this beautiful thing. Yeah.
So yeah, these wonderful hardback books. It's just,
But yeah, those books are incredible. I just looked through a couple of them when I was there and wow. Yeah, some incredible work. The way you talk about activism, photography and the work that you do definitely feels very authentic and very genuine. Do you feel like there's a lot of performative activism as well out there? And how do you recognize that?
there's a lot of performative everything. So I don't get overly concerned with what
Mm.
other people are doing. People are going to do what people are going to do. As best I can, I try and inspire or help. If people want guidance, that's stuff that I can do. Yeah, there absolutely are people who feel that this is maybe an easy way to make a quick buck. When I first started
Is
taking
it?
pictures,
I don't feel like it would
is
be.
it? I've seen photographers who are, taking pictures and then the next 10 minutes they're on the floor with their camera and their laptop and they're sending stuff to agencies. And we need stuff like that. We need photographers who can work quickly, who can do that so that we can,
Mm.
we get the news out. When I started this, and look, I've only been a visual activist for 6 years, but
Hmm.
there were definitely less photographers out there when I started doing this. And I'd imagine before that, there were even less. And there are times when I've gone into a situation and there are as many photographers as there are protesters. So it's more popular. More people are telling stories. More people are either passionate about this and want their pictures to help create a narrative so that future generations can see what people have and are going through. So there are more photographers. I don't know if there are more visual activists, but there is definitely a greater narrative around this type of work. And we need to see
Yeah.
that. We need people out there, telling stories. This is history.
Mm.
It's important.
It is important. I feel like as much as a lot of people think that social media has been, quite a demise for us, it's also been a blessing in that people can share whatever story they want. And so for the undervoiced, that's been a great platform. And that's also trained people to say, hey, I can tell my story. And I guess that's probably part of the whole change in having more photographers out there in demonstration. It's probably this culture of anyone can tell the story. Every voice matters.
Yeah, I can definitely see the benefit in that, in how people are being activated and they feel that they can tell stories. And that's the thing. I know there's people who also say, I asked them, are you a photographer? Oh, no, 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 I just take pictures. We are all
Old
telling
Wayne.
we are all creative in that respect. And I think it's
Mm.
important that we accept and we look at our contribution to the bigger picture. Like I said, protests aren't going anywhere. Demonstrations aren't going anywhere. It's on us to make sure that these voices are heard, that we
Mm.
are able to tell these stories. It really is. It's so,
Yeah.
so important. That's something that I see now, and I really get that. So I want to tell stories. I don't get to do it as often as I did 3 years ago,
Mhm.
running the gallery and bringing out books, um,
Yeah.
does take its toll. It really does, But now maybe that's one of the reasons why I want to kind of move into a space where I can give others a voice, I would love to be able to
Free up the
exhibit
space for
in
yourself.
Australia, yeah, or in other countries. I would love to do that, come and talk
We'll
about
put the call
the
out
importance of
there.
this work. Sorry?
We'll put the call out there, see what comes
Put the
back.
call out there. Yeah, see what happens. The universe is
Yeah.
listening.
Always. You got to be careful what you wish for. I imagine that a lot of the work that you've done, although, being in demonstrations is essentially being surrounded by a lot of anger, there's probably a lot of hope and a lot of humanity in there. What has doing the work of visual activists taught you about humanity itself?
It's taught me that there is a lot more that unites us than tears us apart, for sure. One of the things that I see a lot of, look, critical thinking is at an all-time low, but in my space, the messages that people leave, if you get your news from Fox News or some other outlets, you might believe that the world is burning, but
Hmm.
I know that our media is divisive and our politics can be a bit polarizing, but I know there's hope because I read it every day on with the thousands of messages people leave on the walls. Thousands people come in and I see more unity in my space. And it is an experience coming to the gallery. So when people come in and they add something to the wall, or they read something from the gratitude box, or they kind of get involved in that way, it's powerful. And I see that. And for me, and I don't want to sound too umbla, but there's a lot of energy in how I work with visual activism. There's a lot of energy in how I feel about what I'm doing. And I just have to believe it. I just have to shut my eyes and fall back in this process and know that I'm going to be
Mm.
cool. I didn't choose this. This chose me.
Yeah.
And that feels amazing that something would choose this vessel to tell this story in this
Yeah.
way.
So special.
Yeah.
So
I feel
special.
blessed.
Yeah. I mean, you bring blessings to the world with your work as well. And I guess that's the resonance in all of it, right? You feel what you put out and you put out what you feel.
Yeah. To be able to do what you love on a daily basis and reach people is incredible.
Yeah.
It
And it
really is.
makes you feel so embraced, right? It's like
God, yeah.
you're held with such care, with the thing that chose you. It's
Yeah.
there's no word for it really.
It's just amazing. It's powerful. It really is powerful.
Maybe I can ask you, I don't know if you've got any insight on this, but how can someone find what calls them?
Wow. The deep questions.
You're welcome.
I think there is no rhyme or reason. There is no one size fits all. And people's calling will hit them at different times. Like, it took me 40 plus years to be here,
Mhm.
Prior to George Floyd being murdered, I never had this compulsion to want to go on a protest. I never sat home for, I want to go on a protest. It wasn't in my periphery at all. I didn't see it. I just didn't see it. And now when I look back on that, I'm like, wow, how did you miss that? But everything comes at the time it's supposed to come. And I understand that. So I think you just have to keep yourself open and receptive. Just be alert. And I'm not just talking about physically alert, I think that there is spiritual and emotional alertness that we need to look at. Years ago, people would say, why would you want to go on a protest? It doesn't change anything politically. You going outside screaming, there aren't going to be any policy changes. Maybe not, but there is spiritual change. I think people are experiencing emotional change. There's educational change. Protests, the metrics are broader now. We are connected in ways that aren't just political,
It's a matter of cohesion as well. It's
Yeah,
saying I'm not the only one that's outraged about this, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's healing in itself.
Yeah. Knowing that when you go on a march, there are tens of thousands of people who feel exactly the same way you do. That's incredible. I love that. So I think it's important if people are looking to find purpose, focus, direction, just be receptive and be open to stuff around you. Feel the energy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in the same way that you were being pulled by photography without even knowing why, you just followed that thread until another thread showed itself. And I think it's just,
That was the other thing, There were times along this journey where I felt that I am in the wrong space, but constantly there was always some feeling or some thought that would say, stay here, stay here. I started off I'm an award-winning graphic designer. I'm an award-winning filmmaker. I'm a scriptwriter. I'm an illustrator, percussionist. I've done a lot of things, but growing up, my metric of worth was money, and I was always broke. So I convinced myself that, well, you can't be as good as you think you are, can you? Having all of these accolades and stuff, but no money. So it was tricky believing that I had purpose, and I didn't see that because through the lens of the Western society, I just didn't have enough money. And then when I found my focus, but even with all of that, the creativity was always there. So I was always abundantly creative with what I was doing. But I suppose I started and I was beginning to doubt my own creativity and thinking, well, you may just have to give this up because it's not feeding you. And let's face it, the reality is that, you're not as good as you think you are. Because if you were, look at Brad down the road. He's got a lovely house and a lovely car. And he's half as talented as you. So you're clearly not in the right space. But all I needed was just to find my focus. I had the tools, I had the creativity. I just had to align that with my focus. And there was a lot of noise in my head. What is your focus? What are you supposed to be? Oh, I don't know. I'm trying this. I'm trying that. I'm trying all of these different things, but nothing's fitting there. And I'm flapping around and you got bills to pay. And then all of a sudden you find your focus and then it starts to make sense.
yeah.
It wasn't like an instant, oh my God, this is brilliant. When I started this journey, it's because I was angry. I went out and started taking pictures because I was angry. And through that transition, I saw something.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see it initially, but something became clear to me. And that was my focus. And then all of a sudden, direction followed. So I know what I'm supposed to be in. I found a path. The threads are all aligned and they're taking me here.
Do you feel like that anger that you felt with George Floyd really fueled you to push towards what is really your calling? Do you feel like that anger was there before and you just didn't know it?
Anger is a very useful emotion. Anger is like a wildfire. If you leave it unchecked, it consumes everything. And I think at times, for me, this was a very specific type of rage. And it felt like it was a rage that I could control, not with hindsight. Because at the time I was just raging. I was just in this space where I was just angry, taking pictures, but hating the world, blaming the world for everything. I remember during lockdown, when we all saw the murder of George Floyd, we were stuck at home within four walls. You couldn't move. So when this was on the news cycle on repeat, and it was just like, there's no way to escape. You had to just see it. So I've often asked myself, why did this hit me in a way that other protests haven't? Why did I respond this way in a way that I haven't before? I've been angry before, but this was different, and I was fortunate in as much as I had the tools to control that anger. I was able to illustrate what my rage looked like and vomit out all of that hurt onto a creative space. And having that as a process also allowed me to release some of this hurt, all of this hurt, all of this rage. So yeah, I think in the past there has been anger. Yeah, you've just got me thinking. Maybe I shouldn't call what this was anger. Maybe I should call it something else. But it definitely felt like so much emotion. It was emotional, and it allowed me to look not just at who I was, but who my community, my friends were, and how they related to what I was going through at that time.
So another way to create connection and to see more of the people that surround you in a deeper way, I guess.
Yeah, I think it begins with honesty. 2020, I had a massive cull of friends, people who I thought saw me, some didn't. People who I thought didn't see me, some did. And there were lots of comfortable, uncomfortable conversations around white privilege, around the psychosis of whiteness, around the relationships I was cultivating and what they represented to me. And that was necessary. It was all part of the change. It was all part of the kind of
environment that you needed.
Yeah, I think I needed to definitely see this process. And sometimes on a very base level, you work with people, you have friends. I remember some friend, posting up on his Facebook. He said, there are all these people that want to go out and protest the murder of George Floyd. Don't they realize that we are living through a pandemic? How irresponsible. And I remember seeing that and thinking to myself, and I responded by saying, we all don't have the privilege to ignore what's happening. I was going through two pandemics. I was going through COVID-19 and racism. Those were my pandemics. Yeah. He couldn't relate to that. But it was having these conversations with people that allowed me to really look more deeply into what I felt I needed and what I was going through. And that was, for me, it was as much part of the process as taking the pictures or exorcising my anger. I had to build a tribe of people around me who saw me. And I just took for granted, that everyone did. I would go to work in this happy suit, turn up at work and got my happy suit on and laugh at your jokes. And then I just thought, no, I need to be unapologetically who I am. I need to be who I am through this process. There was a lot of learning for me. I had to grow into who I wanted to be. That taught me a lot.
Yeah, as it would. Now let's bring it back to the celebration of demonstration and that vision, that global vision of celebration of demonstration that is clearly ushering itself through you. What do you see it becoming? Like, if it becomes this global movement, what does it look like for you?
It's like a franchise, maybe. It looks like a safe space for protests in countries all around the world. It looks like visual activism is a language. It's a language. We rely and have done so heavily on the oral language, which these days is made up of more opinion than facts, it would appear, especially politically. When you look at a picture, I just want you to look at it and then get it. or not. Yeah, I mean, straight away, you're looking at it, wow, I get it, I feel it. So yeah, I'd love to see celebration in countries all around the world. I'd love to see powerful visual activists using their voices to tell their stories in a way that is compelling, powerful, and just beautiful. That is what I would love to see. Yeah, I think that for me would be a way of understanding the power of storytelling.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Wayne. I think we can end on this beautiful, hopeful note of celebration, of demonstration all around the world.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you. If you're interested in visiting a celebration of demonstration, you can find us at Unit 22A, Market Row, Brixton Village, London, England. Alternatively, you can reach us on Instagram at A Celebration of Demonstration or visit our website, www.acelebrationdemonstration.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode resonated, it would mean the world if you could like, follow, share, rate the podcast. It helps us get discovered and share the love. All of the guest resources will be in the show notes, including links, offerings, discounts, and anything you might need to go deeper. And if you want more tools, reflections, or behind the scene moments, feel free to follow us on social media or to have a look at womenmakewaves.com.au. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, stay true to yourself.